Mr. President, thank you very much for the wonderful location, number one, the interview, but certainly the location. I'm told this is the only time this shot has ever been used.
I think that might be true. It's a rose garden, certainly with me, but that's because of you. I have respect.
Well, thank you, sir, and the feeling's mutual. We start out with the immigration debate. We did a show, and we started out with crisis at the border. Now, on the right, you'll hear an exclamation point. On the left, you'll hear question mark. Crisis? What crisis? We have a crisis or not?
Well, it's a tremendous crisis. People are pouring up to a certain extent because of the economy, but they're coming up because the laws are bad. The Democrats won't change them in Congress. They want open borders. They want people to come through. And you don't want many of these people to come through. And we're capturing many, many people, thousands and thousands a month, and either bringing them back or doing something. You know, we have laws, catch and release. You catch them, you take their name and different things, and you release them. It's crazy. So we want to change the laws. But Border Patrol, what the job that they're doing is incredible. The job that ICE does on the interior of the country is incredible. And we're doing a very tough job, but it's very, very difficult when you have bad laws that could be easily changed. Eric, we could fix them in 15 minutes with the Democrats, but they don't want to fix them. They want open borders, which frankly means crime.
You know, Jay Johnson, who was President Obama's Homeland Security Secretary, said we do have a crisis at the border.
Right.
Anytime you have 4,000 caught, 100,000 in a month, which happened last month, you have a crisis. What do we do?
So I watched him and I appreciated him, and I think he's a good man, and he meant it. And Mr. Morgan meant it also. He worked for President Obama. He said the same thing, and even in stronger terms. And that's what we have. But I'm building the wall. The wall is a big chunk of what we're talking about, because then we can focus it into small sections of openings and ports of entry. We're building a lot of wall right now. We're taking old stuff down that didn't work, and we're building beautiful 30-foot barriers and ballards, and in some cases concrete, depending on what we need. And a lot of wall is being built, but it's not easy. It would have been a lot easier if I could have had the support with the Democrats, but we didn't get that support. But I'm getting it built anyway.
All right. Let's talk about a couple of news items. We had 3 indictments. Let's start with the first one, Julian Assange. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, know nothing about him, and I don't know what's going to happen. I guess the concept is perhaps he's a reporter type, and, you know, the New York Times is doing the same thing, maybe, and the Washington Post may be the same thing, and lots of others. So I just don't know very much about it.
If we treat him as a, WikiLeaks and Julian Assange as a news service, wouldn't that be stifling the media if we end up indicting him, arresting him, and putting him away?
Well, you know, we have a great attorney general that's handling that. I'm not really familiar, other than I understand there's a whole lot of action going on.
All right, Greg Craig also got in a bit of trouble under the Obama administration. Apparently he was meeting with the Ukrainians. What's going on with the Ukraine?
Well, that's a big deal with Greg Craig, who I don't know, but he was White House counsel to President Obama. That is a big deal. I was a little surprised. I heard about it a couple of months ago. You know, you'd see stories about it, but I believe he was indicted. That's a big deal.
That is a big deal. I'm just curious because we know what happened with Manafort. We hear what is happening currently with Joe Biden and his son with Ukraine.
No, that's
and
also
now
very big.
Greg Craig, yeah.
Ukraine seems to be involved in a lot of things, and you know, with the people with respect to Manafort and all of them, nothing had to do with Russian collusion. Nothing, not one. So I always make that point because it has been. I think a lot of people have been treated in such a way that you don't want to be treated.
Michael Avenatti got indicted for, I think, 36 counts of various forms of wire fraud, bank fraud, money fraud.
Well, he's a bad guy. I know nothing about the indictment, but he's a very bad guy. He's sort of a sick person, I think, and I wish him the best.
The thought that at one point he was thinking about running for president against you.
Well, I don't think it would have lasted too long, and usually those things, they meld themselves out. But what he does is not very pretty. I've seen it, and I've seen it I beat him in a big case. I actually beat him out in California in a very big case, but he's not a good guy, bad guy, and Lots of luck.
So one of the things that was happening with him was the media was picking up. He was Michael Avenatti. He was fighting against you, and they seem to love, the left wing, the mainstream media seems to love anything that can take a shot at Mr. Trump.
Well,
but here's what I want to ask. We are now going to be aired in 200 stations across the country.
Right.
Middle America is watching. What type of news diet are they being fed by the mainstream media, all these people?
It's fake news, so much of it. It is truly dishonest news. It's corrupt news. And I can't be strong enough. I used to say fake, but now I'm going well beyond the word fake. And if you were in my position where you know the truth, in other words, you know the truth. A lot of people, they watch and they really don't know exactly what's going on. So when they see it, they assume it's true. But now the credibility of mainstream media, we call it mainstream, when you see how corrupt the mainstream media is, to me, it's unbelievable. Even I didn't know how bad it was. I could have the greatest success you've ever seen, and they'll make it at best like okay. But usually they'll make it bad. It doesn't make any difference. No matter what I do, if I do something great with North Korea, which I have, I mean, you look at what's come, from where we were, but if I do something incredible with the economy, they will make it as bad as they can possibly.
Why is that?
There's a hatred. There's a they call it Trump derangement syndrome. I don't know.
Is it you, or is it?
I don't know if it's me.
Is it conservatism?
I don't know. I think it's maybe both. They don't like me. I'm working very hard. I'm doing a good job. We have the best economy we've ever had. We have, as you know today, some of the best numbers that have ever been given on the economy.
The number came out, and the lowest number of jobless claims in 49 and a half years, almost 50 years. Yeah. I had a debate with a guy the other day about whose economy is it. I said it's a Trump economy. He said, no, this is just Trump finishing up Obama's economy. And I beg to differ. I think your GDP is pushing 3%, and President Obama had a 1.5, half the GDP of you.
So if they got in, you would be, because that was really heading down fast. And as you know, it was the worst recovery since the Great Depression. If they got in, instead of being up almost 50%, which it is, the stock market, instead of having the best unemployment numbers that we've just about ever had, almost ever had, and with African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, we've had the best. Women is 65 years, best in 65 years. With the others, we have the best numbers in the history of our country. You would have had bad numbers had they gotten in. Too much regulation, and they were going to put on more. Taxes were too high, we cut taxes. So many different things, and what we've done for the vets and choice and so many things.
Can I tell you, one of the things that I've done business, I started on the business networks. One of the things that people ignore, and one of the ways I always catch liberals who are attacking me about it was Obama's economy, Trump's, is for the first time in maybe 12 years, wages are growing substantially.
Right. Very over 3%.
That's a function of a more favorable business environment. Companies feel better about the future, so they'll pay people more to stay. Whereas in the past, they were, I'm not sure about the economy. So it's a confidence in the economy that, and it probably is immeasurable, but that's part of the reason why the number's been so good.
Well, if you look at manufacturing indexes, the most enthusiasm we've had in many years. I mean, 94, 95%. But it is incredible when you see the economy would have been so bad had I not gotten elected, and it wasn't great under Obama. It was the worst recap that we've ever had. I believe it's like either in the 40s or maybe even since the end of the Great Depression. It would have been very, very bad. A big factor, not only the tax cuts, but a big factor was the regulation cuts.
Day one.
We had the biggest.
You came in on a Saturday and started rolling back regulation.
That's right,
I'll never forget that.
I approved the pipelines, the big pipelines, 48,000 jobs. We did a lot of work.
This new, on the left, this new embrace of socialism. AOC comes, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez comes out with a Green New Deal. We're going to be extinct in 12 years unless we adopt this program.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. And what's, to me, amazing is when I look at some of these professional senators. They've been in there for a long time, and I know them, and they're standing behind her, and they're agreeing with what she said. And I really believe they maybe believe it. It's almost like they've been brainwashed. These are long-time senators. They've been brainwashed. But I would love to run. I hope they keep going with it, because that's a dream to be running against.
It's a layup.
The Green New Deal.
Green New Deal. Yeah, interesting. 12 years and $93 trillion, I think it would cost if we were in implement.
I'll tell you this. People have their 401ks, and they have all of the different investments, and they have stock in companies and lots of other things, and real estate and houses. If they won, their houses will be worthless. Their 401ks will go down 90%. They'll go down to nothing. And I think it's going to be very hard for that whole philosophy to do it. We're not believers in that philosophy. We're having the best year, I would say, just about on the economy that we've ever had in the history of our country. We're having one of the best years, but maybe the best year. And I don't think people are going to give that up. We're doing great. We're rocking. All over the world, they're talking about it.
Anti-Semitism, a growing concern with a couple of new freshman congresswomen, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. Your thoughts on, is there a growing tide of anti-Semitism in the country?
Well, I think what they say about Israel and about the Jewish people, I think it's terrible. It's hard to believe. Omar, you take a look at her back tweets and her back statements, what she says about Israel, what she says about Jewish people. If anybody ever said that about somebody else, it would be, and by the way, unthinkable to hear it, because if you go back even 5 years, it would be unthinkable to say it. I have a feeling that you're going to see a lot of really upset people very soon. I cannot believe they've allowed the Democrats to go where they've gone, because
what do you mean upset people?
Oh, I think Jewish people are getting furious by what's happening and by what's being said. This would have been an impossibility to do politically 5 years ago, and now she's out there literally challenging Israel, frankly challenging Jewish people. It's amazing, and I think you have a lot of people that are getting it.
One final thought, weigh in if you choose to. The First Lady, Melania Trump, has just been phenomenal with the opioid crisis.
I agree.
She's volunteered her time to go across the country with us, with Sinclair. Fantastic. Thank you. Give her our best, and thank you for supporting the opioid issue. As you know, it's a deeply concerning issue for me.
Well, she loved doing, I know that very much so, with you. And I met your boy, and that was a phenomenal young man. She loved the interview she did with you 2 months ago, and it's her honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.